Welcome to my podcast, 100% English. In this podcast, we are talking about life. My name is Leo, as you know, and today I have a special guest.
Hello, my friends. Today we have something exciting for you. We're diving into the world of email marketing, one of the most powerful ways to grow your business, connect with your audience, and build real relationships that convert into results. And I'm not doing this alone. Today we have two special guests, Sarah and Daniel, who are going to share their knowledge, strategies, and real insights about how email marketing actually works and how you can start using it effectively. So, if you want to learn how to turn simple emails into a powerful business tool, you're in the right place. Here we are. Let's get started.
This morning, before you even got out of bed, you likely checked an asset that is mathematically more reliable than a Wall Street algorithmic trading floor. You checked your email inbox.
Yeah, almost definitely.
Right. Today, we are examining the immense power and utility of email marketing. It's a channel boasting an astonishing return on investment. We are looking at, a return of $36 to $42 for every single dollar spent.
Which is just a massive number.
It is. But the core tension we are exploring today is why this channel is so uniquely effective. I argue that this extraordinary ROI is primarily the result of sophisticated, data-driven optimization. The true driver of that revenue is the algorithmic automation, the behavioral segmentation, and the AI generation that delivers perfectly timed stimuli to a data set.
Right, and I take the opposing view on this. The technology, while obviously impressive, is strictly secondary. I'd argue the true power of email marketing lies in its unique psychological architecture.
Okay.
It is an environment built entirely on permission, on genuine value exchange, and brand consumer trust. Without that profound human foundation, the algorithms and the automation are effectively worthless.
Well, let's look at the reality of modern campaigns. The success of email marketing largely lies in how well you are able to craft and manage the data. We are looking at an unparalleled optimization engine here.
Sure.
Marketers are utilizing complex customer relationship management tools, CRMs, and these aren't just digital address books anymore. They are massive, dynamic databases that log every single action you take, from what time of day you open a message to exactly which links you hover over.
Yeah, the tracking is intense.
And when you look at the data, the numbers are staggering. Marketers who actively segment their lists see up to a 760% increase in revenue.
But you have to ask why that segmentation actually works in the first place.
It works because of the technological capability to split paths. A 760% increase doesn't happen just because a brand is being polite, It happens because you stop treating your audience as a monolith.
Okay, but
if the algorithm detects a user clicked on, say, women's running shoes on Tuesday, it completely dynamically rewrites Wednesday's newsletter to feature running gear instead of generic apparel. You are engineering relevance, which engineers the sale. Without the digital infrastructure to manage this at scale and automate the timing so precisely, that $42 to $1 ROI simply collapses into nothing.
I just come at it from a completely different way. You are looking at the machinery and completely ignoring the fuel that runs it. The foundation of that incredible return on investment is the principle of the owned asset and the psychology of permission.
Explain that.
Well, think about social media for a second. Your followers on a social platform are entirely at the mercy of that platform's algorithm. If the platform experiences an outage, or if they just decide to change their rules overnight, you lose your audience instantly.
Right.
Email is fundamentally different. It requires a user to actively opt in. They have to literally invite you into their highly personal, highly curated space.
But they don't invite you because they want a friend. They invite you because you triggered a response.
I disagree. They invite you because you establish trust. Consumers naturally have a profound lack of trust when it comes to purchasing, especially from smaller or newer brands. To bridge that gap, an audience must be wooed. Wooed?
Yes, wooed. You have to solve a specific pain point for them before any automated sales pitch will ever work. If you strip away that human element of trust, those highly sophisticated CRM tools you mentioned are doing nothing more than generating highly sophisticated spam.
But see, none of that trust matters if you don't actually get their email address in the first place. That initial capture isn't a warm handshake. It is a calculated data extraction.
I wouldn't call it an extraction.
But it is. Before an email can be nurtured or optimized, it must be captured. How we view this acquisition sets the stage for the entire strategy, which is exactly why it is a psychological contract. That acquisition is usually initiated through a lead magnet, and the most effective lead magnets perfectly illustrate this human element.
Give me an example.
Consider a local dog grooming business. They don't just put up a pop-up demanding an email address. They offer a highly specific, downloadable guide on how to best manage a dog's hair in between grooms for different breeds. Or take a real estate creator who offers a transparent, detailed breakdown of exactly how they made $50,000 in 6 months on a Hawaiian Airbnb. They explicitly detail how much of that money they actually got to keep after taxes and fees.
Right, but both of those are just mechanisms to get the email.
But the mechanism requires human value. This content must be highly valuable, and it must actually exceed the consumer's expectations. When a consumer receives something of that caliber for free, it creates a positive first impression.
Sure.
It establishes awe. It automatically qualifies the lead because the content is intrinsically linked to the business's core offering. The dog owner who downloads the grooming guide is literally raising their hand and saying, I care about my dog's appearance and I trust your expertise. That is not just data extraction. That is a relationship being born.
See, to me, that is a digital toll booth. You are framing this as a deep relational starter, but let's look at the actual mechanics here. You cannot drive on the highway of this brand's premium content without paying the toll, and the currency you are paying with is your behavioral data.
I think toll booth is a harsh way to put it.
But it's accurate. It is a calculated friction point designed specifically to capture variables to feed the CRM machine. You are trying to extract data points, like a first name, which can later be mathematically inserted for personalization tokens or behavioral indicators based on which specific magnet they clicked.
A toll booth implies a forced transaction. This is a voluntary exchange of value.
I have to stop you there because framing something like a gamified spin the wheel pop-up as a psychological contract or a voluntary exchange of value is a massive stretch. It is pure immediate gratification.
Wait, the gamified discount wheel on a landing page?
Exactly. A user lands on an e-commerce site, a digital wheel pops up on their screen, and they enter their email to spin it for a randomized discount. Implementing this specific randomized form on a website increases conversions by a flat 10%.
Right.
Let's be honest. There is no deep educational value there. There is no comprehensive guide on dog grooming or an honest, vulnerable breakdown of Hawaiian real estate revenue. It is pure transactional gamification yielding an immediate reward.
Okay, but
The user is simply trading a data point, their email address, for a mathematical probability of a discount. That 10% increase proves that acquisition is frequently driven by transactional dopamine loops, not the profound establishment of trust.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. Even the Wheel of Fortune relies on a baseline of permission and trust.
How so? It's just a digital slot machine?
Because the user is still making a conscious psychological choice to allow you into their inbox based on a promised exchange. If they spin that wheel, win a 20% discount, and then the code doesn't work at checkout, or if they feel tricked by hidden terms and conditions,
Well, yeah.
that data point, as you call it, becomes entirely useless. They will immediately hit unsubscribe, or worse, mark you as spam. The transaction only works because the human baseline of permission is respected. The moment you violate that trust, the data point vanishes.
Fair enough.
But once that email is successfully captured and the code works, the system entirely takes over. This is where we move into the management of the list. Is the system managing a fragile human relationship, or is it managing a data set? I argue it is pure data science. We aren't manually sending emails to check in on people. We are setting up complex if-then conditions.
Which still require human oversight to mean anything.
They require mathematical logic. Think about the mechanics of an abandoned cart. Manual emails are guesses. Automated behavioral triggers are mathematical certainties.
Okay.
If someone puts a $200 jacket in their digital cart and closes the tab, an automated sequence doesn't just send a generic hello, it waits exactly a specified number of hours, the statistically optimized window for regret to set in, and sends a customized reminder featuring that exact jacket. Automated emails like this are 320% more effective at driving revenue compared to manual, non-automated campaigns.
320% is a massive leap, I agree. But you aren't ignoring the boundaries placed around that automation.
Let me finish the thought, because it's not just about abandoned carts. It is about mapping life cycle stages mathematically. Take language learning, for example.
Right.
If a user purchases an intermediate English course, the CRM system automatically triggers a tag. It dynamically routes them away from beginner material, ensuring they never see an ad for basic vocabulary again, and funnels them toward advanced proficiency courses or TOEFL exam preparation. That is a data routing exercise. It requires zero human empathy to execute perfectly day after day. It just requires a properly configured algorithm.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the strict limitations the software itself places on this automation? Automation is entirely useless if the relationship isn't respected, because the system will literally shut you down. There is massive emphasis in email marketing on the health of an email list and avoiding spam triggers.
Spam triggers are just another algorithmic rule to navigate. You run a spam test, you fix the errors, you avoid certain flagged words, and you send. It's a technical hurdle.
No, they are algorithmic rules designed specifically to protect human sentiment. Think about your own spam folder right now. It is a graveyard of brands that violated your trust by screaming free trial in all caps.
Yeah, that's fair.
Email providers flag emails that scream sell, sell, sell. If you write your subject line in all caps, or if you use heavily punctuated phrases, or rely on words like earn cash now, prize, or guaranteed, the provider recognizes that you are violating the trust of the inbox and sends you straight to the spam folder.
True.
The algorithm didn't just arbitrarily decide those words are bad, it put them there because millions of humans marked those exact aggressive sales tactics as annoying.
But marketers clean their lists to avoid that. It's a standard database maintenance procedure. Every 3 to 12 months, you scrub the dead data.
It's more than database maintenance, though. It is an acknowledgement of human fatigue. If someone hasn't opened an email in 3 to 6 months, you send them a re-engagement email. If they don't respond to that, you must manually delete them from your list.
To protect the metrics.
Exactly. Because holding on to unengaged subscribers registers as a low delivery rate, which destroys your sender reputation with the major email clients like Gmail or Apple Mail. The automated removal of these unengaged subscribers proves that permission is decaying human sentiment. It is not a permanent static data point that you own forever. If you treat the list purely as an extraction mechanism and stop providing value, the permission decays, the engagement drops, and the email providers block you entirely. The technology actively enforces the psychology.
Let's follow that logic to the actual execution phase then. The moment the email actually lands in the inbox, you are prioritizing authentic communication and this idea of decaying human sentiment. But when we look at how the actual content of the email is generated and refined, it is ultimately an expression of algorithmic refinement. Consider the power of A/B testing.
Which still tests human reactions.
It tests variables to find mathematical winners. Let's break down the mechanics. A marketer wants to sell an online course. They don't just trust their human intuition. They test 3 completely different subject lines regarding grammar on a small percentage of their audience.
Right.
The system monitors the open rates in real time. The winning variation, let's say it's, "Are you struggling with grammar?" outperforms the others, and the algorithm automatically blasts that winning subject line to the remaining 80% of the list. That single test generated $600 in sales from one email send. That wasn't a triumph of deep human connection. It was a mathematical test of variables to see which string of characters triggered the highest click-through rate.
But look at the string of characters that won. Struggling with grammar inherently speaks to a human pain point. It won the A/B test because it demonstrated empathy for the reader's specific personal frustration. It wasn't just random characters, it was the most psychologically resonant phrasing. The A/B test just confirmed the psychology.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, mostly because the empathy itself is increasingly being simulated and scaled by machines. You are prioritizing authentic communication, but authenticity is now just another variable we can optimize with artificial intelligence.
I don't know about that.
I mean, let's look at the actual creation process today. You can use a ghostwriter bot to instantly translate a simple voice memo into polished formatted text.
Which is just a transcription tool.
But it goes further. You can highlight a templated generic introduction and use native AI content assistants to rewrite it specifically to make it sound more heartfelt. The machine literally injects simulated empathy. You can use AI image generation to instantly drop in custom visuals, like an abstract potted plant, to perfectly match a specific aesthetic tone without ever hiring a designer or taking a photograph.
And you think that replaces a genuine connection?
I think it begs a fundamental question. If authenticity is the true bedrock of email marketing, why do the most successful campaigns actively use artificial intelligence to artificially generate a heartfelt tone? Does authenticity actually matter if a mathematically generated, AI-written subject line and a machine-rewritten heartfelt introduction reliably yield a 25% open rate and a 3.5% click-through rate?
Well,
The numbers strongly suggest that perceived personalization is just as effective, if not more effective than genuine authenticity. The user cannot tell the difference.
it matters immensely because audiences are not stupid. And the moment that illusion shatters, the ROI plummets. We are constantly warned against over-automation. Marketers are told to personalize without being creepy,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning that just because your CRM knows a user's first name, their exact location, their age, and exactly what link they clicked on at 2 a.m. yesterday, doesn't mean you should display all that data to them in the opening sentence.
Right, obviously.
If you do, that breaks the illusion of a respectful relationship and crosses immediately into surveillance. True execution, the kind that retains subscribers for years and actually builds that massive 42 ROI, requires bespoke, authentic value. It requires what is often called infotainment.
Informative entertainment.
Precisely. Let's look at a real example of this. A language learning company sending out a newsletter that breaks down the specific vocabulary and phrasing used in Taylor Swift's latest album. Now think about why that works on the human brain. An AI didn't organically brainstorm that cultural connection based on a database.
No.
A human marketer recognized a cultural moment and knew what would genuinely delight, entertain, and educate their specific audience without immediately asking for a sale. It creates a pattern disruption in the inbox.
It gets an open because Taylor Swift is a highly searchable keyword.
It gets read because it builds parasocial affinity. If an audience receives a relentless barrage of algorithmic sell emails, even if those emails are perfectly timed by a CRM, their brain registers it as clutter. They mentally check out.
Right.
If they don't receive genuine human-curated value first, all of your mathematically perfect, A/B-tested, AI-generated subject lines are completely irrelevant. The recipient will simply delete the email without opening it, or route you to the promotions folder where you will never be seen again.
This brings us to a fascinating synthesis of our perspectives, I think. My position remains that the unprecedented ROI of email marketing is fundamentally driven by its capacity for hypersegmentation, rigorous A/B testing, and automated behavioral triggers. It is the invisible data architecture, the CRM databases, the 320% boost from automation, the 760% increase from dynamic segmentation, that scales revenue to those staggering heights. You cannot generate $42 for every dollar spent relying purely on good intentions and well-written prose. You need the machine to scale it.
And my position stands that none of that sophisticated technological infrastructure functions without the foundational, distinctly human elements of permission, brand trust, and a genuine, ongoing exchange of value. The algorithm must serve the relationship, not the other way around. If you optimize for data extraction at the expense of human trust, the ecosystem collapses.
Yet, in exploring these two sides, we do find the critical point of convergence.
This incredibly powerful, high-yield asset is astonishingly fragile. Both the data-driven and psychology-driven perspectives completely agree that an email list is highly perishable. Simply neglecting an email list for 6 months can result in losing access to it entirely.
Which is incredible when you think about it. You can spend years and thousands of dollars building this asset. You can have the best CRM on the market, but if you stop showing up in the inbox or if you stop providing actual value, the permission evaporates.
Completely.
The engagement metrics plummet, and the asset is effectively destroyed by the email providers who interpret your sudden reappearance as spam. It demands constant, active maintenance.
It truly presents a fascinating duality. Email marketing operates simultaneously as the most highly personal medium in digital marketing, landing directly in an individual's private inbox alongside intimate messages from their friends, family, and colleagues, while also serving as a mass market tool ruthlessly optimized by machine learning and CRM datasets.
Yeah, it is the ultimate intersection of deep human psychology and high-level data science.
There is certainly much more to explore here, particularly the granular mechanics of building those complex automation workflows and the specific templates used for crafting these campaigns. We leave it to you, the listener, to decide whether you view your own inbox as a carefully curated network of trusted relationships or a highly optimized stream of behavioral data. But the next time you open a promotional email and the subject line perfectly addresses a problem you had this very morning,
ask yourself if you are looking at a brand that truly understands you.
Or an algorithm that perfectly predicted you.
A pleasure as always.
Thank you.